Good morning and welcome to the Courage Coalition. Today, you have the honor of a very, very special lady. I met Anniston just a short, what's this, 5 months ago, the end of January. I actually had heard of her one other time when I was listening to her husband on stage because he talks about her all the time. But I had never gotten the joy of her presence, the gift of her presence until January. And she looked me in the eye before I got on stage and said, "You're going to be amazing." And it was like this electrifying connection. I can't explain it any other way. I just thought, I need to know more about this lady. So, welcome, Anniston, to the Courage Coalition.
I am so excited to be here, Corey, and I'm so honored that you asked. And
Oh,
I also, I think there's just those people you meet that there's a level of remembrance there. You know what I mean?
yes.
And you're one of those people. So there you
Oh,
go.
I love it. I love it. So, Anniston is a transformational mentor, master numerologist. So, if you don't know what that is, stay tuned. And best-selling author of The Universe is Hiring. And that was how I finally got to know her a little bit better. As I came home with her book, and boy howdy is all I got to say, I fell in love. And so you guys get to hear her, and we get to have this beautiful conversation about her gift and what it has done for her in life. So, The Universe is Hiring is your book.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about, have you always believed that this is who you were supposed to be?
Oh gosh. No, I can tell you that hand to heart, absolutely not. I mean, in my wildest dreams, maybe, if I would have even allowed myself to go there. I think like many people, I had an idea of who I was, right? I had an idea in my head of what I was capable of. I had all these ideas about what I wasn't capable of, more so probably than what I was. And I was just really lost, I would say, right up until my mid to late 20s. I just was in this constant state of trying to figure out who I am. And I've always been a seeker. I've always been curious. I've always been a lover of the written word and consumed a lot. And people would say to me, like, are you ever going to write a book? And I would literally laugh in their face. He'd be like, no, no, no. I would say, I'm a consumer of the written word. I am not a writer. Like, and I like declared that. I like stood behind it. And because I was like, no, 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 no. I wouldn't want to go to the process of doing that. Like, I like to learn. But really what was underneath that was just this huge fear of what if I couldn't? And of course, I think the things that we're meant to do, like the things that we're meant to do, come pre-packaged with lots of fear and resistance around them, right?
Yes.
And I should have noticed those to be the signs that they were and the little breadcrumbs from the universe. But it really wasn't until later, when after I had met and married Rudy, he was really a big catalyst for me. I was a catalyst for him too. I mean, we were both very spiritual and really connected on a deep level, but once we got married, it just set something into motion. It was like we started really leaning into um, what we believed at the time and still is our purpose and helping people. And it became like this fire in our belly. It was like with this urgency of like we've got to like get this work out into the world, right? So for me, it wasn't so much something that I always knew, but it was along the journey of me coming back to myself and who I am that my greater purpose continued to unfold. So I would call it more of an like unfolding than
Right.
a knowing.
Right. So I love that you bring it up in this way because, what I feel just consistently, the podcast has been going for a year now. And so every guest I interview, there's this consistency. And it's one is that I was discontent,
Hmm.
but I knew no different. And the fear is what stopped me until it didn't.
Hmm.
Because I heard it or I felt it, right? Like the things that come to us are for us for a reason, but we're not taught to listen. We're not taught to feel and give information to. So talk to us a little bit about how did you go? I mean, you felt this thing, but it's so much easier to talk about what we feel or what we think than it is to actually do something about
Mhm. Oh, this is so true. It kind of happened for me in stages. And I write about this in the book as well. But The Universe is Hiring was not my first book I wrote. I actually wrote, I think it was in 2014, 2015. I woke up out of a no, I'm sorry, this was no, I was on a plane and I was meditating as I often do when I fly, like to start, because I'm like, I'm sitting here anyway. So I just put on my headphones, I was doing guided meditation, and I received an inspiration for a book. And when I receive ideas, and I think this is part of my energetic makeup, I'm also a one life path, which you'll learn if you learn a little bit more about numerology. And that's a signature of the one, is like we receive these like kind of lightning bolt ideas that come out of nowhere, right? And they're usually very different, never existed before, something completely crazy. And at the time, I got a book idea. I saw I saw the cover, saw the everything, and I was so like, I mean, I could feel it vibrating in my body. I felt so right to me, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. And then I was like, okay, I had done a lot of work on myself. So at this point, I was like, I'm going to actually do this. I'm committing to do this. I'm going to do this. And I did it. I wrote that entire book from start to finish, like complete. I found an editor. At that point, I was going to just self publish, or that was my plan. But then when it came time for me to actually go and publish the book, I froze.
it.
It's like I had expanded my identity and what was possible for me up to that point, right?
Yeah.
But what I hadn't done is expanded beyond into being someone who was courageous enough and who was comfortable enough being seen and being judged. And I was working in corporate America and I had all kinds of fear, right? What will people think? What will they do? It was a very spiritual book. It had some different ideas in there. And I felt like it was safer for me to keep that part of me hidden, and that was better for everyone, and so that's how I justified it. And so I saved it in a little file on my desktop, and that's where it sat and still sits. To be honest, I never published the book, and not that I won't. I probably will one day, but what I'm telling you this story because I think that we are always on this journey of evolving and coming back to ourselves. And it is these desires, I think, that become like the carrots that get us out of our comfort zone and say, this desire is not going to leave you. It's going to keep bugging you, and you're going to feel it, and you're going to think about it, and you're going to dream about it until one day you actually start to have the courage to step out into the unknown and do what you've never done. And yes, you're going to be walking on a proverbial minefield because you're going to be hitting up against all of your limiting beliefs, all of your triggers by design. Like, I don't believe, as much as, like, listen, the universe is hiring is, I love it so much. It's like a baby to me. You know what I mean? It's like a being that I birthed, but it taught me and it grew me far more than it will ever grow anybody else. Does that make any sense? Like, it
Yes.
was my teacher. It was the thing that was saying, come on, come out of your shell. Like, come on, keep going. And that's what I believe the true purpose of our desires are, is that it's first to teach us and then to teach others.
Other people. Oh, I love that because that truth of what we learn when we walk through something we've never done about ourselves, about the world, about our abilities, about hard and good and all the things is so underrated, right? It's like, oh, but what if I fall on my face? Yes, please fall on your face.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, I
Fall on
here,
your face because you're going to get up stronger and better than you ever were before. So I love that you talk about that and how much those things are purpose, yes, but purpose for yourself first.
for yourself first. Like, there are no guarantees. No one can ever guarantee you what the outcome of your book will be, or your podcast, or your website, or your business, or even, being a mother. But
Right.
The only guarantee that you can have by actually having the courage to take steps towards your desire is that you will not be the same person
Mm,
that like at the end of it as you when you started. You will not be. You will be expanded.
yeah.
And that should be enough. What if that gets to be enough?
Yeah.
Could that not be enough reason to know that you're going to get to know and witness a more expanded version of yourself experientially, not just thinking up here, but like you're going to be so impressed with yourself that you actually did this thing that doesn't even matter
Yeah.
how many likes you got on social media, you know?
Right. No, it's so true. It's so true. I love that you say that. I that is just there's so much truth in that. Um the first chapter of the book is really this thought process of how we do life. And it was the whole book was, like I said, so impactful. We'll never be able to get through the whole thing, but I want to talk about this because you talk a lot about being the victim or the victor, right? And you write something, you write, you're only a victim once, after that you're a volunteer. And that is so powerful. It's the unpopular decision, it's the unpopular opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is the truth. You only are a victim once. And after that, you're allowing this to happen again and again and again, over and over again. If that's a mindset, if that's an action, whatever it is. And you go on to say, you may not have chosen the experience, but you get to choose how it will affect and define you.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to dive into this because I believe this so truthfully. Like it feels a part of my soul, but it is not the popular opinion. And it's probably the number one factor that keeps people stuck in what
Yeah.
they're still doing.
Yeah, it's tough, because there are a lot of people, myself included, and I'm sure Corey, you've had your moments, right, where there's been some really crappy things that have happened that would any from the outside looking in or when it happened to me, I experience it as happening to me, right? Like
Mhm.
this happened to me, and now, it's what we make it mean, and it's how we choose to allow it to define us. And I think that really what it comes down to is choice. And yes, I don't think that anyone would consciously choose to have those types of experiences. Like truly, who would consciously choose that? But if it happened, what if it happened for a reason? And there
Mhm.
was something you were meant to gain out of it. And it's in the seeking of the purpose in your life's experiences that sets you free.
Mm.
That is your liberation. It's not in the I'm going to sit down and I'm going to force myself to forgive my perpetrators, right? Like that is still negotiating being a victim because you're still the victim, right? Who something happened to you that shouldn't have happened to you. And so you're finding it within your heart to forgive somebody. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You're still looking at this as something that wasn't meant to happen for one reason or another. And what I'm advocating for and what I truly believe, and I can't say that, everyone has to choose what they believe, but for me, it is that if anything is in your life experience, the good and the bad, the pretty and the ugly, every single thing has a purpose.
Mhm.
No moment is wasted. I believe we live in an unbelievably intelligent universe
Yeah.
with a creator that doesn't make mistakes. And I think that what's hard for us is because no one wants to go through that kind of thing. But if you're really honest with yourself and you look at what were the moments in your life that created or catalyzed the greatest growth for you, it
Mhm.
wasn't your happy moments. I
No.
hate to tell you that. It really wasn't. And I do believe you can learn through joy, but oftentimes, first, we got to learn through some pain.
Right.
We got to learn through some challenges. We got to have that challenging relationship. We've got to have that person that comes in and makes us feel completely disempowered in life. We've got to have it in order to learn what it is. We know what it is to feel disempowered so we can then go on to claim back our power, right? Like, I think that there are things that set things into motion. And so it is a different way of looking at life. But as I said in the book, you cannot be both. You cannot be a victim and a victor. Are
Mhm.
you going to be the hero in your story, or are you the victim of your story? And it's a choice.
It's a
It
choice.
really is. It all comes down to it.
I love it. It's funny. Every day I feel like I'm saying that, whether it's to a child or something, but like even my 6-year-old, I'm like, you're choosing to be miserable right now, my love,
Yeah.
right? You're choosing this. This is not worth all those tears. And she just looks at me, but no, you're choosing it. I feel you. I love you. I see you, but you're choosing this. You don't have to feel this way. And it's amazing at how fast she can recoup, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's something that my growth has given the gift to my children, right? Because I can tell you, my 31-year-old didn't get much of that from me, right?
Yeah.
He didn't get that much of me. I was young, I was naive, but that growth in me has just changed the way I parent. And I feel like so many moms don't see that, right? They
Yeah.
don't see that their growth is actually one of the biggest gifts they will ever give their children.
Oh my gosh. The greatest gift.
Yes.
The greatest thing I think you can do for your kids is work on yourself.
Oh, agreed.
Because oftentimes I think that we project our own wounds onto our
Mm,
children.
yes.
We see through those lens, and then we start to try to arrange the world so they never have to experience that,
Yes.
because and then when we realize that our job as parents was never to completely have your children avoid pain, that's a like that, I mean, our job is actually to be there with them while they experience pain, and to hold them by the hand and say, here, let me help you walk through this fire, because you're going to be fine on the other end. Because if they can learn that skill early in life, if they can learn that resilience, like that is the greatest gift. You trying to keep them so in a box that it's avoid all pain, avoid all challenges, is actually prolonging their lessons in life when they could be learning this much earlier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, we hear so much noise about the next generation or this generation, and you need to reflect in the mirror because you've caused this.
Mm-hmm.
We have caused this, um, because we think that a life with no a life with no work, a life with no pain, whatever it is the answer. But yet we are actually creating a culture that doesn't know how to work through those hard times. And
Yeah.
that is a very scary place, I think.
Yeah.
A very scary place. We're going to get into the numerology here soon, but I want to read one more part of this that I felt like I really feel like people get so stuck in is I don't know my purpose. I don't know who I am, right? Like I just don't know who I am. And it says, you wrote a sentence that says, only the truth of who you are, if realized, will set you free. But you wrote in here, you are one of a kind. There will never be another you. No replacements are waiting on the sidelines. If you don't recognize, master, and share your unique gifts with the world, the life puzzle will never be complete, as it will be missing the perfectly shaped piece that is you. Authenticity is found in the intersection of who you are and what you do when you do who you are. Because at some point in your life, probably early childhood, you formed the belief that your natural passions, talents, dreams, and desires were not significant and didn't matter. You compartmentalized them, packed away the parts of yourself you believed unacceptable, and started to pretend to be the person you thought you should be to be accepted by the tribe, survive, and succeed in life. Eventually, after playing this character long enough, you forgot you were pretending and believed this to be who you are. I cried so many times in this book. I can't even tell you. Like,
Me
but
too,
that
Corey. Me too.
right? That truth of why aren't we celebrating who we are in our soul? Why aren't we telling our children, like, what lights you up? That's what you should be doing after high school, right?
Yeah.
I have a high school senior this year, and it's like her biggest fear is, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm just mom, right? I'm always going to be just mom, even though she loves me with her whole heart. And I keep just telling her, you have to come back to you. Mhm. It has nothing to do with your counselor's opinion, what your friends are doing. Mom and dad have no expectations. That's just something Chad and I do. We just don't have expectations. We want to grow you. We want to make you, I just really want them to feel alive in this world, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. I think it's such a powerful place before we get into the numerology and learning a little bit about ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Um, well, I love that you asked this question. And I also love that you're approaching parenthood this way because that's how Rudy and I feel about our kids. We have an 11-year-old son and now a 10-year-old daughter. She just turned 10. And, we feel like one of the greatest gifts, in addition to teaching them what resilience looks like, right, is to be able to see them. There's nothing greater in life than I feel like feeling seen.
A
But
hundred
more
percent.
than being seen by other people, I think what we really crave is being seen by ourselves, like
Mhm.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we project it out and say, other people don't see me. They don't see my talent. They don't see my gifts. And my response is always, do you see your gifts? Do you see your talent? Because people can only see you to the degree that you see you and you believe in you, right?
Yeah.
I believe that it's all a mirror. So, as it relates to really reconnecting, and I also hear a lot from women and men,
Yeah.
I don't know what my purpose is. And then I'll say, well, what brings you joy? I actually don't know what brings me joy.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because my work has continued to evolve and deepen to really answer this one problem, right? Because
Okay.
as a purpose coach or as someone really helping people align with their purpose, I kept coming up against, okay, but like, how do you coach someone who doesn't even know what joy feels like in their body? And I really saw the issue, which is a complete disconnection from the body, right?
Mhm.
We are so conditioned to live up in our minds, and and our purpose doesn't live up there.
No.
Our minds were never created with the intention of or even ability to conceptualize our purpose.
Mm.
Our minds are filing cabinets, is what they are. They're filing cabinets with a lot of folders in them that are cataloging everything that's happened in your past, everything that you've seen before, and it's constantly trying to make sense of and keep you safe.
Yeah.
Do you think that filing cabinet is going to be able to project into your future about what is going to make you the happiest? No. But you do have a tool, and that tool lives below your neck. Okay. And that tool it's as a felt experience, right? And it's about really starting to feel again. So
Mhm.
if you are someone, if you're listening right now and you relate to that feeling of like, I feel lost, I have no direction. I'll think this is going to make me happy. And then I go do that thing. And then I'm still left feeling the same way. I actually don't know what would leave me feeling the most fulfilled. Well, the strategy is not always what people want to hear because it sounds very, very simple, but sometimes it's the simplest things that are the hardest.
Yeah.
And it is actually creating the space to be still and to sit with
Mhm.
yourself and to be in your presence, like with yourself, without all the distraction, without the digital stuff going on, without your kids, and I mean, truly like with yourself and starting to ask yourself questions and be curious. And when is the last time I remember feeling true joy in my body, right? And on a scale of 1 to 10, like where am I operating right now? Like, am I on like a 1, or am I pretty good at like an 8? I normally feel joyful. Okay, what am I doing when I do that thing, right? And it's
Yeah.
it's starting to really like study yourself and get to know yourself, get to know your body. And what happens naturally there is, number one, you're going to start understanding how I believe the whispers of God or the whispers of spirit come through you, right? And they're not up here, it's through your heart, it's a felt experience. You're going to start to get these ideas, these feelings, these hunches, these nudges, these like, you should go to the park today. And you're going to be like, who has time to go to the park today, right? And you're going to have your mind's going to give you all these reasons of why you should. But it's when you start following that guidance and you start pulling that thread of joy, that eventually you pull that enough and it's going to start to expand. And then what you realize is joy actually is the path to your most authentic self, who you are authentically, doing the thing that lights you up, which then activates it in a way where you start doing it enough, then people start taking notice. You start drawing in opportunities. It's like taking the dial of your magnetism and starting to turn it up, because all of a sudden you're vibrating in this like joyful place because you're doing things that light you up, not the things you think you should do, but the things that actually light you up. It doesn't have to be tied to a paycheck. It doesn't have to be a job title. It can very much be, it could be knitting for your grandchildren. It could be hosting dinner parties because you love to cook and you love to like do this for your friends. It can come in many different forms. But in my experience and what I've seen with so many people is that synchronicities start happening. The right people start coming. And all of a sudden, what was a little side hustle or hobby or something you did on the side, it starts to expand and become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden it turns into this thing that you're like, and then you're doing it all the time. And then your purpose becomes the what you give back to people. Does that make any sense? So that's really the process. It's get still, do the things that light you up, follow the breadcrumbs, and you will be led, because your purpose wants you as much as you want it, and you haven't lost it. It's in you. It's waiting for you.
It's about remembering. It's
Yeah.
about, I feel like I feel every time I get one of those really big aha moments. That's what everyone, calls them, as the aha moment, is I'm remembering something. I'm
Yeah.
remembering something that, not like a memory, but like something that was in my heart. I recently was interviewing a longtime friend. We've been friends since kindergarten. And so, it's like you get these people that have known you in so many stages of your life. And she reminded me of something. She gave me this gift of a memory that I hadn't really put in my head, but it was a memory of being on the playground. We were first graders and we were sitting on the curb. It was at Central Elementary School in Albany, Oregon. And we were sitting on the curb and we were sitting there talking, and I was kind of staring out, and she said, "What are you staring at, Corey?" And I said, "That little girl right there, she needs us to play with her. She
Oh,
needs us to go and talk to her." And what it did for me is that it reminded me that I've always looked out for children that needed more.
yeah.
It's a part of who I am,
Yeah.
right? And she didn't even understand that gift that she gave me, but it was just that remembering of really taking an audit, the evidence that it's already happened, that's already inside of you, but we don't give it the credit that's there. It
Yeah.
has power. We're just told it doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's who we are, and who we are is for a reason. We're
Yeah.
born on purpose for a purpose.
I think a lot of times too, and I think back to my childhood. I mean, I always had my nose in a book. Like I was like, that was my happy place. I was very imaginative. My dad used to have a saying, and he'd be like, Earth to Anniston, you know what I mean? Like he would try to like get my attention because I would just be like in another world. Like I had this imagination, but then I was made to kind of like, I don't know, I perceived it as a weakness on a strength.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started completely shutting down my creativity, and I started looking outside of myself of like, well, what talents and skills are celebrated?
Yeah.
And I didn't have any of those.
Yep.
So what do you do with that, right? And I think some people, they work really, really, really hard to develop those because we're told, okay, that's celebrated, being the
Right.
quarterback of the football team, or being a really great gymnast, or
Straight A
getting
student.
perfect grades, right? So that's where the striving starts happening, and we start disconnecting from like, what if someone had sat me down, and I've actually gone through this process as myself now, going back to my little 6-year-old self and talking to her and saying, what you have is such a freaking gift.
Oh, yes.
Never stop creating. Never stop being in that head of yours with that imagination, and creating the space to just think. I would just sit in my room and just allow like hours would go by and I would have these ideas and be building these stories in my mind. And that was my natural state and my natural gift. And I'm coming back to it now in my 40s. You know what I mean? So I think, if you're listening to this, like think back, because it's oftentimes those little trivial things that maybe you and your unformed brain at that age wrote off as, well, this is not special,
Right.
so it's not important, so I'm just going to put that over here and compartmentalize it and forget it even exists, because there's something there for you. Like,
Yeah.
there's something there.
There's something there. Absolutely. I 100%, like 1,000% agree. Those are the things that we have to go back to and start remembering,
Yeah.
because that is your evidence, and there is something there, and we've just we've said goodbye, and it's so sad. It's just, it breaks my heart, when you're talking about all those things, and I was talking about parenting and how different it has been for me. um I can think back to my two older boys are 31 and 27, and then the littles came 10 years later. And so I remember paying my older children for perfect grades. And
Mm-hmm.
it breaks my heart today. It really does. Now, I'm not saying that they have this thing about being perfect, but it did define something in them. It did prove to them that if I do this, I'm worthy,
Right.
right? And
Right.
that is exactly what I have worked so hard in myself to remember, that I am worthy no matter what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
but try to implement now, not only in the littles, but in these boys, right? I shared a story at a line about apologizing to my older son because he had told me a story about never celebrating his accomplishments. And as we walked through that, I then said, and I am so, so sorry. And he's like, what? Why are you sorry? I said, because you're doing what you saw. I believed that I was only worthy when I was producing expectations for other people. That's what
Mm-hmm.
you saw growing up.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry. So we can still teach. Mistakes are beautiful. We can
Oh my
still teach.
gosh. Even our kids will be like, we'll approach something differently. And they're like, you used to say this. I'm like, well, we change every day. Like, we are growing. When you know better, you do
Do
better. And
better.
that's just, I was like,
Yep.
and maybe one of the greatest gifts you can give to your children early on is just be like, okay, cat's out of the bag. Mommy and daddy are not perfect. We are students too.
Yes.
You're our teachers. We're your teachers too. Like, we're teaching each other. And we've
Absolutely.
never, I've never parented an 11-year-old boy before.
Right.
And I will have never parented a 12-year-old boy before. So it's always new, you
Yeah.
know?
And even when you've done it, I'm the first one to say it doesn't repeat itself. There's three boys and three girls in this household, and not a one of them have been the same.
Right. That would be too easy, Corey. Way too easy.
Way too easy. So let's talk a little bit about numerology, because most people have no clue. What are you talking about?
Which I'm always baffled by, because I'm like, doesn't the whole world know about this? Like,
Nope.
okay, numerology. So a lot of people are familiar with astrology, right? Which is, it's very much the energy of the the planetary movements and the time of birth when you came in. Well, numerology came around right about the same time. I mean, probably one of the oldest self-help methods known to man. And it's based on the belief that, while yes, we are humans and we communicate with words and with sound, that the universe, this universe that we are in, is an energetic universe. We are actually all energy too, right? And it's a vibrational universe. And then what is happening around you is just vibration responding to vibration, right? The universe communicates through symbols, it communicates through numbers, and it communicates through sound as well. But numbers hold significance. And I think we've all kind of known this, at least I think when you really look back even into ancient texts. Numbers have always been a thing. You know what I mean? It's a thing in the Bible. It's a thing in every single religion, that their numbers hold meaning and significance. And so when I first discovered numerology, it was in my late, or maybe my mid to late 20s. I had just really started deep diving into personal development and really learning about myself, but there was still a lot of gap in between. Like, okay, I think I know what I want to do, but I didn't really have that belief. I certainly didn't have any of the validation. Like, my nothing in my life said this is what you're going to be doing. This is even possible for you. It just felt like a pipe dream to me. Like, that's what it felt like. Imagination. It felt like wishful thinking that I would one day be able to be worthy enough to not have to have a 9 to 5 job, and to be able to have the freedom I want to help people and write books and all the things, right?
Yeah.
So then enters numerology, and all of a sudden, then the first thing I discovered was my life path, which in numerology is like the foundational number. And there's other numbers and aspects that are important. We are multidimensional beings. Like, there's the other things to consider, but the life path really is like that overall energetic theme. And what I discovered that day changed me in an instant. Like, it's like, and it was because it was meant for me. It
Where
was
did you discover it? Was
I
it like,
actually so a book, somebody gifted me a book, and knowing that I was a curious, open-minded person, and said, you need to read this. And it was one of those, right? Like, they just
uh-huh.
handed it to me, and I'm like, okay. And then probably took me a little while to actually get into it. And when I read it and sat down, I just had tears like running down my face. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like it's like someone's just opened up a part of my consciousness that I haven't had access to, is what it felt like. Like, it was such a deep remembrance of like, oh, shoot, yes. And for me, I had really, in my specific life path, is really about being different. It's about being a trailblazer. It's about getting new, innovative ideas and then being the first, right?
Yeah.
But oftentimes, what happens with our life path is we're not just there to experience the good part. Like, first comes the resistance to it. And so oftentimes it will really point to where your wounds are. And for me, I just grew up desperately wanting to belong, desperately wanting to fit in. So you can imagine the problem that dichotomy presents, because, I'm here to be someone who brings in the new
Yeah.
and to be different. That's my nature. Yet all my conditioning says, don't you dare. Don't you dare be different. Don't you dare say that. It's going to be too much. Don't be that. You're going to be abandoned and rejected and all the things, right? It's like that was the war going on. So when I read that and I started to see it differently, and then I came back to it again, and then I didn't just dip my toe in the water. I cannonballed in. I was like, I want to know everything there is to know about this system, because I felt like I didn't choose it. It chose me. I just
Yeah.
needed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I wound up getting certified in all the forms of numerology. And then I went on to an even more intricate system that is based on your birth name, which is translated into ancient Hebrew, which is the real pure essence of vibration. And because your birth name and sound creates, well, your birth name becomes like a beacon for your soul's plan. It's like, so we could talk about this for hours, but it's all to say that, numerology for me was an avenue for me to reconnect with myself and to remember who I am. It didn't put me in a box. It actually opened me up, like, to see and to acknowledge my true nature.
Ugh. Oh, there's like my heart is beating. It's just like beating. And the reason is that numerology is new to me too. And Anniston shared this beautiful gift this year as part of her offerings. And I was curious because, like I said, I was so attracted to her energy in January. I thought, you know what, I want to look at this. And when I went through the initial test, and I listened to your voice, I'm gonna cry. It was like this, oh, like this. warm hug. I'm a hugger and I give really great hugs. And so I felt like maybe it's like the hug that I always give. It was like, I see you, I feel you. You are exactly who you are supposed to be. It was like this coming home, right? Like the
Mhm.
coming home. And it was just, it's not the answer. It was just the knowledge that
Yeah.
who I am is exactly who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And there was just so much. I was reading this again, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm a seven, I'm a mystic. And I'm going to tell you 100%, I would not have said that.
Mhm.
Not have said that. I would have said I was the healer. And you
Mhm.
know what's even funnier about that is I was doing another book, the Seven Frequencies by Erwin McManus.
Yep.
And I tested myself as a seven because it's just based on your knowledge, right? It's only based on your knowledge.
Yeah.
And my husband looked at me and said, "That's a lie. You are not the healer." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "No, that's just your beliefs again." Isn't that funny though?
It is funny because, well, oftentimes we don't always see ourselves very clear. So it's why I said, even with the magnetic woman code in the very beginning, I'm like, if you're having a hard time resonating with your number, look up someone you know, because oftentimes we're like, oh yeah, 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 that's 100% that person. Like we can see it. But what's interesting, and you said something, and I really want to make sure that I respond to this. You said, about being a healer.
Oh.
Every life path has its own form of medicine.
Mhm.
We all, in our medicine, is essentially comes in the form of however we're sharing our specific purpose, right? So as a seven, which is so funny because so many of the like prominent women in my life right now that are like featuring big time are all sevens. So I'm like drawing in these incredible sevens. And I told Corey I love sevens because they have the best conversations. They go deep. They're okay with not staying surface level. In fact, they probably hate surface level anything, but that the true medicine of a seven is when they are so dialed in to their own inner compass, to their own inner authenticity, and that they no longer outsource their own authority. They are their own authority, and they really don't give two F's what anyone else thinks about it. Like, they're going to live their truth so bravely and courageously
Mhm.
that that is the medicine, because people are like, they become like the mirror for other people of
Mhm.
saying, how, are you showing up as you? You know what I mean? And that is medicine. So in
Yeah.
essence, you are a healer. It just
Yeah.
not might not be in the way that you associate healing. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. And in your written word, you write, I'll see if I can find it. Oh, the one who holds a mirror to others, not to fix them, but to
Yes.
help them remember who they've always been. And I read that and I was like, those words came to me for when I was speaking at a line, the
Hmm.
reflection. And I thought, oh my gosh. I mean, again, I'm trying not to cry, you guys, because there is so many aha moments right now as far as the the reintroducing myself to the person I've always been, but just saying you are the all that you need. You are
Yeah.
all that you need. And when you talk about that authentic power, January, my word was authenticity. I am done doing it anybody else's way.
Yeah.
I am done pretending that what's in my heart is not enough, even if it's not the common way,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so it's just like this full circle. And I think when I was messaging you, I was like, I was sobbing when I messaged her, but I said, it feels like this full circle moment of just saying, "Hi, Corey. It's nice to meet you."
Yeah. Yeah. And I listed, so in each life path archetype, I list, just so people can have another way to look at it or context, some famous people. that are sevens. And one of my favorites, and I love Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift is also a mystic. So you would look at her, the bajillionaire that she is, super successful, and you probably would have thought, oh, she's a three, she's an expressor, or she's this. But no, because a lot of sevens actually are very successful when and only when they decide they're doing it their way. Like, look at her. She was like, I am not going to listen to those executives. I'm going to stand up to all those big men. And her music, I believe, is so wildly impactful and popular with women and men because she was just doing it her way. She's not following any rules, right? She's breaking all the rules. She makes a folk album one year, and then the next year she goes back to pop, and then the next year she writes a album that's like all about hating men, and then there's you know what I mean? It's just like she's like, I'm doing my thing and I'm creating my art my way, and if you like it, great, and if you don't, well, okay. Like, and I think that is the mantra of the seven, is after, and probably you spent probably a good portion of your life thinking like, or maybe giving that a little bit of that power away and saying, well, I should probably do it this way, or this person says it's this way, so I'm going to follow this. Like, that tends to be a bit of a cycle with a seven until you realize, like, I have been my own guru all along. So there we go.
Yeah. And at 100%, I mean, I gave my power away my entire life until probably about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that know me would say that is not the truth. You've always been this really strong, powerful, like you know yourself, but deep down inside, no. I was fearful of being not accepted, of not loved, of not seen, right? And so a lot of that was out of trying to do it other people's ways, right? Like, I thought if I do this, then it'll be enough. Or if I do this, it will be enough. So I think that's really hard for some people that are near and dear to me to understand that that actually wasn't who I was. That was a mask.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Corey. I love that.
So I want you to kind of like bring it all in to like one thing. If people are like so curious, like, how can I do this? One, I know you have offerings and we're going to drop those in the show notes. The book, you guys, you just got to buy the book. Just buy the book and just gift yourself in a quiet space the magic of the words and be open to receive them, because they're going to be different for each of us. But if you had one thing to leave the audience with, what would it be?
Oof. I love these questions. We ask this at our dinner table a lot. Like, if you had a stage, a world stage, and you had 1 minute to share. This is the kind of conversation we have with our kids at the dinner table. 1 minute to share. What would you share? And I can tell you what I would share right now.
Okay.
What I would share right now is that that we are all naturally 100% in our natural state magnetic, meaning that when we are operating with an open heart and when we are operating from a place of 100% authenticity, that we become increasingly magnetic to what is aligned for our unique path, which means there is no need ever to feel like you have to chase something, because if you're having to chase it, it's not yours, or maybe not yet, or you're wasting your energy and your time. That you never have to force something, that you should never have to feel like you have to grip it or have it really fast or it's going to go away, right? That you become this active participant in the unfolding of your life instead of trying to take the responsibility that was never ours in the first place, which was to try to be the conductor and the executor and the everything, right? We're meant to be in our natural joyful state, able to know that what is there for a reason, and when it leaves for a reason, and that life doesn't have to be so hard. It really doesn't. And when I really, really got that and really leaned into the embodiment of that, not just knowing it, but just embodying it in my everyday, that life just, man, it's been a ride. Like it just every day is like a new mystery. It's like, what's going to happen today, and I'm so turned on by my life. And I think that is what we're meant to feel, turned on, not just in a sexual way. I'm saying like where you're feeling anticipatory, excited when you wake up, like
Right.
because it's a whole new canvas. You don't know what is going to be. So that's what I would say.
Okay. I love that. And the surrender, the ease to just
Yes.
be, just to be and figure out what comes with that. Each each episode I ask my guests before we start, what is the definition of courage? And for you, you wrote, courage to me isn't about fearlessness. It's about feeling the fear and choosing to move forward anyway. It's the moment you listen to the whisper of your soul over the noise of the world. It's being willing to let go of who you've been in order to become who you are truly are. And I always love hearing other people's definitions. And it's always, I would say 90% of the time, there's a consistency.
Hmm.
It's stepping out in spite of fear. And I
Yeah.
really want our audience to hear that. This isn't about your knowing, your grip, as Anniston just beautifully said. It's not about your grip and your knowing. It's truly about just being and
Yeah.
following those breadcrumbs, following those nudges, following that whisper, whatever it is, and knowing that there's something more. There's more of who you are on the other side because otherwise they wouldn't be given to you. They're a gift, whatever they are, they're for you for a purpose. So I challenge you to step out in one way or another. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's, I said it for the first time on my last podcast I just released. I said, I was you, Anniston. I was a hard no. I can never write a book. Never. Hard,
Hard no.
hard no. And God said, nope, that's really not you. And gave me this beautiful download and was like, here is chapter one, and here is chapter two, and here is chapter three. And I thought, that would be a hard yes. Now,
Right?
I don't know what it will look like. There's no deadline. I don't have a grip on it. See, that's the thing is there's no grip. It's just that the answer is now yes. There
Yeah.
is a book, and it's an important book, and it's for me because it was given to me
Yeah.
in every way that looks.
It's so beautiful. And I can't wait to read your book. It's going to be so good. And like you said, it's going to be a journey and it's going to unfold in ways you could never conceive of. Your mind would never be able to conceive of. And why would you want to? Because
Right.
it's like the mystery really is the magic is in the mystery.
Yeah. It's
So
the
I
gift.
can't wait. I can't wait to see it in its finished form.
Well, Anniston, again, I cannot thank you enough for giving the audience an hour of your genius level gift. It's just this, I don't know. I could go on and on. I could toot Aniston's horn forever, but it's just this level of expiatory aha that I really believe we need to start thinking and opening ourselves up to a little bit more. So thank you so much for your time. I do truly appreciate it.
I love you so much, Corey. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Until next time, my friends, remember to download, share, and rate the podcast, and we will talk to you soon.